you ever wondered? Not in the passing way you might wonder what to eat for dinner or what time the sun will set. No, have you ever truly wondered about the lives that breathe and beat just beyond the edge of your campfire light? The ones that unfold in the deep hours when even the moon seems to doze behind a veil of clouds? Have you ever pressed your palm against the cold glass of a window at midnight and stared into the black wall of trees at the edge of your yard? Knowing somewhere inside you, knowing that something out there is staring back. Can a wild owl raise babies that aren't even her own? Can a mother love young she never gave birth to? And if her own eggs never hatch, can she still become a mother? These are not small questions. They are not the kind of questions you ask lightly, because they lead to other questions, harder ones, ones that scrape against the inside of your chest. What makes a family? What makes a heart turn toward another creature and say, "You are mine"? Is it blood, is it bone? Or is it something older and stranger? Something that doesn't live in DNA, but in the quiet space between one breath and the next. Welcome to Echoes of the Wild, where nature speaks, and we listen, not with our ears alone, but with something deeper, with the part of us that still remembers, in the oldest corner of our bones, what it felt like to be small and helpless and utterly dependent on a pair of wings that chose to spread wide above us. This is not a fairy tale. There is no magic here except the real magic. The one that happens every single night in forests you have never walked through, in nests you have never seen, between creatures whose names you might not even know. This story begins in a quiet forest. A forest with no name because it could be any forest. It could be the one behind your childhood home. It could be the one you drove past last autumn without a second glance. It could be the one that exists only in the half-remembered landscape of a dream. The trees are old here. Oaks and maples and the occasional towering pine that scratches at the sky like a finger drawn across velvet. Their bark is furrowed with centuries of weather, carved by wind and ice and the slow, patient work of time. And through this forest, in the heart of winter, an owl is searching for a place to call home. She is a great horned owl, though she does not know that name. She does not know that humans have given her species a title that speaks of horns she does not possess. She only knows herself as hunger, as flight, as the whisper of feathers against air. Her body is a study in browns and grays, mottled and streaked, designed for disappearance. When she presses herself against the trunk of a tree, she becomes the tree. When she closes her amber eyes, she becomes the darkness itself. But tonight, her eyes are wide open. It is the heart of winter. The coldest, deepest part of it, when the world seems to hold its breath in anticipation of something. Spring, perhaps, or maybe just the relief of a single degree of warmth. The trees are bare, their branches lifted toward the sky like skeletons reaching for something they cannot quite remember losing. Snow has fallen and melted and frozen again, crusting the ground in a shell that cracks under the weight of anything larger than a mouse. Everything feels still, like the world is waiting. Waiting for what? She flies from tree to tree, her wings making no sound. That is her gift. The thing that separates her from nearly every other creature that moves through the air. Owls have feathers with fringed edges, soft velvet edges, that break the turbulence of air into tiny, silent currents. A mouse can be sitting in an open field, ears twitching, alert for danger, and never hear the shadow that drops from above. She has hunted this way for 3 winters now. She knows the patience of hunger. She knows the discipline of waiting until the precise, perfect moment. But tonight, she is not hunting for food, she is hunting for a home. She finds an old hollow in a tree. It is an oak, massive and ancient, its trunk wider than a man's outstretched arms. Halfway up, where a branch once broke away in some long-forgotten storm, a cavity has formed. Not too deep, not too shallow, protected from the worst of the wind by a natural overhang of bark. The opening faces south, away from the prevailing winter gales. Inside, the floor is littered with old leaves and the shed feathers of birds who came before. It smells of dust and rot, and the faint sweet perfume of decaying wood. A place that feels just right. She lands on the rim of the hollow and cocks her head, first one way, then the other. Her ears, hidden beneath her facial disc of feathers, are not symmetrical. One sits slightly higher than the other, allowing her to triangulate sound with an accuracy that would seem impossible if you did not know the truth. An owl can hear a mouse heartbeat from 30 feet away. She listens now to the silence inside the hollow. No rustling, No breathing. No tiny claws scrabbling against wood. Empty. She steps down into the cavity and turns around once, twice, 3 times, the way some creatures do when they are testing a space. Her talons scrape against the floor, pulling aside the debris, making a shallow depression. She crouches low and spreads her wings slightly, feeling the size of the space around her. It is not luxurious. It is not grand. But it is shelter. It is safety. It is a place where new life could begin, and in her body, something is already beginning. Deep inside her, tiny eggs are forming. Not yet shells, not yet anything more than the faintest possibility. But they are coming. The days are growing imperceptibly longer. The sun, even when it hides behind clouds, stays a little longer above the horizon. The great wheel of the year is turning, and she is turning with it. But nature is never that simple. Out of nowhere, another owl appears. He comes from the east, riding a current of cold air that smells of frozen lakes and distant mountains. He is larger than she is, broader in the chest, heavier in the talons, with a darker mask of feathers around his eyes. His hoot rolls across the forest like a stone dropped into still water, deep, resonant, demanding. It is not a question, it is a claim. This hollow has belonged to him in previous years. He remembers its contours, its particular smell, the way the morning light slants through the opening at a certain angle. He has been away, ranging farther than usual because the prey has been scarce this winter. But now he is back, and he expects to find his home waiting for him. Instead, he finds her. She does not move from the hollow. Her body is a shield, a declaration. Her eyes lock onto his, and for a long moment, neither of them blinks. The forest holds its breath. Somewhere in the distance, a squirrel chitters nervously and then falls silent. The wind itself seems to pause. It's not his home, but he wants it, and he is bigger than she is. He is stronger. By every measure that predators understand, he should win any contest between them. But there is something in her posture that gives him pause, a stiffness in her spine, a set to her shoulders that suggests she has already decided something. She is not going to give up without a fight. The silence breaks, a sudden clash of wings, sharp talons, a fierce fight for survival. They rise together out of the hollow, like a single terrible creature with 4 wings and 2 screaming mouths. Feathers fly, drifts of down and contour feathers torn loose by grasping feet. They tumble through the air, locked together, spinning end over end, and then slam against the trunk of the oak with a sound like a fist hitting a door. She shrieks, a raw, ragged sound, and rakes her talons across his chest. He answers with a grunt and tries to get his feet around her neck. They fall 10 feet, 20 feet, still fighting, still shrieking. A casual observer might think they are trying to kill each other. In a way they are. But it is not murder they are after, it is possession. It is the right to claim this space, this hollow, this tiny pocket of the world that has suddenly become the most important piece of real estate in the entire forest. She lands first, on a lower branch, and uses its leverage to launch herself back at him. Her beak finds his wing and bites down hard. He twists away, leaving a tuft of feathers in her mouth, and flaps heavily to a neighboring tree. For a moment they stare at each other across the gap. Both of them are breathing hard. Both of them are bleeding from small wounds. Both of them are deciding whether to continue. Then, without warning, he turns and flies away. Not because he is afraid. Not because she has truly defeated him. He is older, wiser, and he knows something she does not yet fully understand. There will be other hollows. The forest is vast, and the energy required to continue this fight, the risk of a broken wing, a blinded eye, is not worth the reward. He vanishes into the darkness, and his hoot, when it comes again, is farther away, fading, a retreat, in just a few seconds. Everything changes, in the end. The female owl claims the nest. She returns to the hollow slowly, because her body hurts, and she is tired in a way that goes beyond the physical. The fight has taken something from her, not just feathers, not just a few drops of blood, but a piece of her certainty. For a moment, hovering in the air with another owl's talons closing around her throat, she had wondered if she had made a mistake. If this hollow was worth dying for. But now, standing in it again, feeling the rough bark against her back, she knows it was worth it. This is her place, her home, and soon it will be something more. Slowly, she begins shaping the ground beneath her. It is an ancient ritual, one she does not think about because she does not need to think about it. Her body knows what to do. She scrapes her talons across the floor of the hollow, pulling aside old leaves and bits of bark and the dried droppings of whatever creature lived here before. She pushes the debris into a low ring around the edges, creating a shallow bowl in the center. Then she settles into that bowl and turns again and again, compressing the material beneath her until it forms a firm, smooth surface. She does not build a nest in the way a robin builds a nest, with twigs and grass and mud. Owls are not architects. They are squatters and renovators, taking what nature provides and making it just barely their own. But there is a kind of beauty in this minimalism. Every unnecessary thing has been stripped away. What remains is pure function, a safe, stable platform for the eggs that are coming, preparing, building a space for her future. The days pass. The winter loosens its grip, though only slightly. The sun rises a little earlier each morning and sets a little later each evening. She hunts during the dark hours, mice and voles, the occasional unwary rabbit, and returns to the hollow before dawn. She sleeps with her head tucked under her wing, her feathers puffed out against the cold, her breath misting in the still air of the cavity. And then, one day the first egg appears. It happens in the night while she is alone in the hollow. There is no fanfare, no cry of triumph. One moment her body is just her body, and the next moment something is sliding out of her, soft-shelled at first, but hardening as it meets the air. She feels it happen, but she does not understand it in the way a human mother might understand the birth of her child. For her, it is simply another rhythm of the body, like breathing or blinking. The egg is small and white and perfectly oval. She turns it gently with her beak, positioning it in the center of the hollow, and then settles over it. Her belly, bare of feathers designed for this exact purpose, presses against the shell, transferring warmth. Her heart beats against the egg. Her breath moves across it, then another, a day later, or maybe two. Time moves differently when you are waiting. The second egg arrives. It is slightly larger than the first, or maybe that is just her imagination. She turns it, positions it, covers it. Now there are two small promises tucked against her body, two tiny containers of possibility, and another. The third egg comes 3 days after the second. By now she has fallen into a rhythm. Hunt, return, incubate, wait. Hunt, return, incubate, wait. The world outside the hollow continues to turn, but she has reduced her universe to this one small space. Nothing exists except the eggs beneath her and the cold air beyond the opening and the hunger that gnaws at her belly until she can no longer ignore it. This is her world now. Her hope, her purpose. But something isn't right. She cannot name it, because she does not have language for it. But somewhere in her body, in the ancient machinery that has guided her species for millions of years, a warning light is flickering. The eggs feel wrong. They are not developing the way they should. The warmth she pours into them is not being answered by the warmth of growing life. She shifts her weight, rearranges the eggs, tries a different position. Nothing changes. Days pass, then weeks. She waits, patiently, silently, the way her mother waited, and her mother's mother, back through countless generations to the first owl who ever crouched in a hollow and hoped. Patience is not a virtue for a nesting owl. It is a survival mechanism. The eggs must be kept warm. The eggs must be turned regularly. The eggs must be protected from predators and cold and the 1,000 other things that can go wrong. So she waits, but nothing happens. No movement. No sound. No subtle shift in weight that would tell her something is alive inside those smooth white shells. She does not weep because owls cannot weep. She does not pray because she has no gods. But she knows in the wordless way that wild creatures know things, that something has gone terribly wrong. The eggs are not going to hatch. The life she was preparing for, the chick she was already imagining, though she did not have the word for that either, is not coming. Her eggs never hatch. Imagine that moment, not as a human, with human words and human feelings and human ways of processing grief. Imagine it as an owl. Imagine that you have done everything exactly right. You found a safe hollow. You fought for it. You drove away a larger, stronger enemy. You laid your eggs, 3 perfect eggs, and you have not left them for more than a few minutes at a time for weeks. You have starved yourself to keep them warm. You have sat in the freezing dark night after night, because that is what a mother does, and still, nothing. They are not dead in the way a mouse is dead. They never lived at all. They are simply empty. Hollow shells containing nothing but the faint, sad smell of failure. What does that feel like? What does it feel like to have every instinct you possess, every cell in your body, every beat of your heart, screaming at you to protect and nurture, and nowhere to direct that tidal wave of devotion? What do you do with a love that has no place to go? Some animals abandon the nest. They walk away or fly away, and they do not look back. Nature is brutal in its efficiency, and there is no room for sentiment when survival is on the line. The energy spent on a failed clutch is energy that could be spent on next year's clutch. Move on, try again. Do not waste your precious resources on something that is never going to live. But somewhere else, far from this quiet forest, in another part of the woods, 2 tiny owl chicks fall from their nest. It happens in the middle of a storm. The wind is howling, bending trees almost to the ground, ripping branches loose and hurling them through the air like spears. Their nest, a much less secure structure than the hollow, just a platform of sticks wedged into the crotch of a maple, shudders and groans under the assault. The mother who built it is not there. She was killed 2 nights ago by a passing great horned owl, the same species as the female waiting in her hollow. The father has not returned. The chicks are alone. They are tiny, no bigger than a human fist, covered in pale gray down that offers almost no protection against the cold. Their eyes are still closed. Their beaks are soft and rubbery. They cannot regulate their own body temperature. They cannot hunt. They cannot even lift their heads for more than a few seconds without trembling with exhaustion. When the nest finally breaks apart, they do not cry out. They have not yet learned to cry. They simply fall, tumbling through the air, landing on the frozen ground with tiny, muffled thuds. They are weak, helpless, exposed to the cold and danger. The storm rages on. Rain, cold, needle-sharp rain, pummels their bodies. The temperature is dropping. They huddle together, pressing against each other for warmth, but it is not enough. Their breathing slows. Their hearts, which have been beating so fast, begin to falter without help. They won't survive. A human finds them. Not a scientist, not a wildlife rehabilitator, just someone walking through the woods after the storm has passed. Someone who hears a sound so faint, it might be the wind rustling the leaves. But it is not the wind. It is one of the chicks, barely alive, making a sound that is not quite a cheep and not quite a whimper. The human knows the rules. The human knows that wild animals belong in the wild. The human knows that intervening is risky, that sometimes the kindest thing to do is to walk away and let nature take its course. But the human also knows that these chicks will die within hours if left here. Their nest is destroyed. Their mother is gone. There is no one coming to save them, so a risky decision is made. The human has seen the hollow tree, has noticed the female owl sitting in its entrance day after day, still waiting for eggs that will never hatch. Has wondered in a quiet moment what would happen if... No, it is crazy. It goes against everything the human has been taught about wildlife. You do not interfere. You do not move animals from one place to another. You do not assume you know better than nature, but the human has also seen the look in that female owl's eyes. Not hope exactly, owls do not hope, but something like readiness. Something like a door that is not yet closed. Those fragile chicks are placed into her nest. The human climbs the tree carefully, holding the 2 chicks in a makeshift pouch made from a shirt. The climb is difficult. The bark is wet from the storm, the branches are slippery, but the human is determined. At the hollow, the human pauses. The female owl is not there. She is out hunting. Or maybe she has finally given up on her eggs and left for good. The human does not know, but the eggs are still there. 3 white shapes, cold now, abandoned. The human removes the eggs, places them gently in the shirt, and in their place, in the warm depression left by the female owl's body, the human sets down the 2 chicks. They are so small, so fragile. Their down is damp and matted, their beaks open and close without making a sound. One of them has a scratch on its leg, not deep but bleeding slightly. The other is shivering uncontrollably. The human climbs down, steps back, waits. The same owl, who lost everything, is given a second chance. Now the question is, will she accept them or reject them? The human has read about this, has heard stories passed around in wildlife circles like campfire tales of cross-fostering and adoption in birds. Some species are surprisingly accepting, others are not. Some mothers will immediately recognize that something is wrong, that these are not their eggs, not their chicks, and will kill the intruders or simply abandon the nest. The human has no way of knowing which way this will go. She returns. The female owl glides in from the east, low to the ground, her talons empty. She did not catch anything tonight. The hunting has been poor, and she is hungry, and the hollow is the only place she wants to be. She lands on the rim and pauses. She looks inside. For a long moment, she does not move. Her head swivels, her eyes adjusting to the darkness of the cavity. She sees that her eggs are gone. She does not understand where they have gone, because she does not have the concept of someone taking them. They are simply not there. The hollow is different. It smells different. And there is something else. Two small, warm bodies. Two small, living things radiating the heat of life. One of them moves just slightly, a reflexive twitch of a wing. She cocks her head. First one way, then the other. Her ear tufts, those knot horns that give her species its name, lift slightly, a sign of curiosity or perhaps confusion. And then she steps down into the hollow. It is not a quick decision. It is not an impulsive act. She approaches the chicks slowly, her beak slightly open, tasting the air. She nudges one of them with her beak, gently, almost tenderly. The chick responds by opening its mouth wide, the universal signal of hunger, of need, of please, please, please. She gently settles over them, pulling them close, as if they were always hers. No hesitation, no rejection, just instinct, or maybe something deeper. Because here is the thing about instinct. It is not a computer program. It is not a simple on-off switch that flips from protect my eggs to ignore everything else. Instinct is flexible. Instinct is improvisational. Instinct is the gulau whisper that says, something small and helpless is beneath me. Something small and helpless needs warmth. Something small and helpless is alive, and I'm still a mother, even without eggs. She pulls them against her belly, the same bare patch of skin that was meant for eggs. It is warm there, warmer than anywhere else on her body. The chicks, who have been shivering for hours, finally stop shivering. They press against her, their tiny bodies absorbing her heat. And for the first time since their nest was destroyed, they are safe. She begins to preen them, not because they are dirty, though they are. Not because she is trying to clean them, though that is part of it. Preening is what mother owls do. It is how they bond with their young, how they transfer oils from their own feathers to the chick's down, how they say you are mine without having the language for it. Her beak moves over their heads, their backs, their tiny folded wings. They squirm under her attention but do not pull away. From that moment on, they are her family, but survival is never guaranteed. The days that follow are not easy. The female owl has never raised chicks before. She does not know in any conscious way how much they need to eat or how often, but her body knows. When they cheep, a high, insistent sound that cuts through the darkness, she feels something that might be called urgency. She leaves the hollow. She hunts. She returns with food. The first few meals are disasters. She brings back a mouse, but the chicks are too small to tear it apart. She does not know how to do it for them. She stands on the rim of the hollow, mouse dangling from her beak, while the chicks cheep and cheep and cheep. Finally, she does something she has never done before. She tears a tiny piece of meat from the mouse and drops it into one of the open mouths. It works. She does it again. And again. And again. She learns quickly. By the end of the first week, she has become an expert at tearing prey into chick-sized pieces. By the end of the second week, the chicks have doubled in size. Their down is being replaced by real feathers, brown and gray, mottled like her own. Their eyes have opened, huge and yellow and wild. They watch her when she comes and goes. They know her. They trust her. Threats return. Other birds try to take over the nest. It begins with a pair of crows. Crows are not usually a danger to adult owls, but they are intelligent and opportunistic, and they have noticed that the female owl leaves the hollow for long periods at night. They have also noticed the sound of chicks cheeping. Crows eat chicks. It is what they do. They come at dawn, when the female owl is returning from her last hunt of the night. She lands on the rim of the hollow just as one of the crows is reaching inside, its beak stretched toward the chicks. She does not hesitate. She launches herself at the crow with a shriek that seems too loud, too fierce, too angry to come from a creature so small. The crow retreats, cawing in alarm. Its mate joins it, and for a few seconds, there is chaos. wings and beaks and talons, a whirlwind of black and brown. The female owl takes a hit to her shoulder, feels a sharp pain that will become a bruise, but she does not stop. She chases the crows through the trees, hooting and screaming, until they are nothing but distant specks against the brightening sky. She returns to the hollow. The chicks are trembling but alive. She settles over them, her heart pounding, her feathers ruffled. She will not leave them alone again, trying to trap them inside, but the crows are not the only danger. A raccoon discovers the tree. Raccoons are excellent climbers, and this one has learned that hollows sometimes contain eggs or chicks. It scales the trunk slowly, deliberately, its masked face turned upward toward the opening. It can smell the chicks. It can smell the owl. The female owl hears it coming. She leaves the hollow and positions herself on a branch just above the opening. When the raccoon's head appears, she drops onto it, talons first, aiming for the eyes. The raccoon shrieks and swipes at her with its claws, but she is faster, more agile. She strikes again and again, drawing blood, until the raccoon loses its grip and falls to the ground with a heavy thud. It limps away into the underbrush, hissing, and does not come back. Danger closes in again, but this time, she fights harder. She is not the same owl that fought for this hollow weeks ago. That owl was fighting for herself, for a place to lay her eggs, for a future that existed only as a possibility. This owl is fighting for something real, something that cheeps and squirms and opens its beak in the darkness, trusting her to fill it. She has lost one family. She will not lose another. She hunts through the night, feeds her young, protects them with everything she has. The weeks become a month. The month becomes 2 months. The chicks grow. They stand on the rim of the hollow now, flapping their wings experimentally, testing the air. Their flight feathers have come in fully, broad and powerful, capable of lifting them into the sky. But they are still learning, still clumsy, still afraid, and slowly, the chicks begin to grow. They stand taller. They explore. They spread their wings for the first time. The female owl watches them from a nearby branch. She does not hover. She does not fuss. She has taught them everything she knows, how to hunt, how to hide, how to listen for the sound of danger. Now it is up to them. Now they must take what she has given them and turn it into their own lives. Until one day, one of them steps forward. It is the larger of the two, the one that has always been a little bolder, a little more curious. It stands on the rim of the hollow and looks out at the forest, the endless, overwhelming forest, full of trees and shadows and things it does not yet understand. The wind lifts its feathers. The sun warms its face. It hesitates for a moment. Then, before it can talk itself out of it, before fear can freeze its muscles and keep it safe and small forever, it leans forward and falls. Not falls, leaps. Its wings snap open. The air catches them, holds them, lifts them. For one terrible, wonderful second it hangs there, suspended between the hollow and the sky, between everything it has known and everything it will become. Then its wings begin to beat. Clumsy at first, uncoordinated, a frantic flailing that looks nothing like the smooth, silent flight of its mother. But it is flying. It is flying. A clumsy flight. But a beginning. Freedom. The second chick watches from the hollow. It cheeps once, a sound that might be encouragement or might just be surprise, and then it too leaps. Its flight is even clumsier than the first, all thrashing wings and panicked adjustments, but it stays in the air. It stays. It follows its sibling to a nearby branch where both of them land in a tangle of feathers and relief. Not long ago, these chicks were moments away from death. They were cold and wet and alone on the forest floor, with no mother, no nest, no hope. The storm should have taken them. The cold should have taken them. The crows or the raccoon or simple starvation should have taken them. By every law of nature, by every statistic and probability, they should be dead. But they are not dead. They are perched on a branch in the morning sun, their feathers gleaming, their yellow eyes bright with the simple, staggering fact of being alive. They are not grateful because gratitude is a human emotion, but they are here. They exist. And somewhere in the forest, in a hollow they have already begun to forget, a female owl is watching them with eyes that have seen too much and survived too much to take any of this for granted. And now, they belong to the sky. Nature doesn't always follow the rules we expect. We like to think we understand nature. We like to draw lines around it, to categorize it, to explain it in tidy paragraphs and predictable patterns. The mother raises her own young. The strong survive and the weak do not. Blood is thicker than water and instinct is destiny. But then something like this happens. Something that refuses to fit into the categories we have built. A mother whose own eggs never hatch, who pours her love into chicks that are not hers. Chicks from a different nest, a different bloodline, a different story entirely. And that love, that fierce, wordless, inexplicable love, is enough. It is more than enough. It is the difference between death and life, because sometimes being a mother isn't about where life begins. It's about the choice to protect it. Not a conscious choice, maybe. Not a choice that involves thinking or deciding or weighing options, but a choice nonetheless. A turning of the body towards something small and helpless. A settling of feathers. A spreading of wings. A choice that happens in the oldest part of the brain, the part that existed before language, before civilization, before humans ever looked up at the stars and wondered what it all means. That part of the brain knows. It is always known. Love is not a word. Love is not a feeling. Love is what you do when something needs you and you do not walk away. If you feel something from stories like this, stay with Echoes of the Wild, because here, every silence has a story. The silence between heartbeats, when a mother waits to see if her chicks will fly. The silence after a storm, when the forest holds its breath and wonders what has survived. The silence of a winter night, when a female owl sits alone in a hollow and hopes for something she cannot name. These silences are not empty. They are full of wings and talons and beaks, full of hunger and fear and triumph, full of the million small miracles that happen every day in the places we never think to look. We just have to learn how to listen. So listen. Listen to the dark. Listen to the wind. Listen to the sound of feathers against air, almost too soft to hear, almost too quiet to believe. That is the sound of a mother flying home to her young. That is the sound of a second chance, earned one hunt at a time, one night at a time, one beating wing at a time. That is the sound of Echoes of the Wild, and it is calling you to stay.